How long do you think you can hold your breath for? Anybody, so we just an experiment. How many think you can hold your breath for 1 minute? Is it? Yeah, okay. 2 minutes. Whoa, pretty good. How about 3 minutes? Yeah, okay, we've all dropped out at that point. What do you think the world record is for holding one's breath? It was just set by David Blaine on the Oprah Winfrey Show in May of this year. You know how long he held his breath for?
9 minutes.
17 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, he had the advantage of being able to breathe pure oxygen for about a half an hour before he got in the water tank and held his breath. But 17 minutes and 4 seconds. A really, really good male high school 3.1 mile cross-country runner can run 3.1 miles in about 17 minutes and 4 seconds. Imagine while we're watching through that race, a person just takes one breath there. Now, the reality is that we can live without air for about 5 or 6 minutes. And then our brains quickly die. How long do you think you could go without water? How long could you go? Here's a fascinating story. In October of 2006, a Japanese man was out hiking in the winter. He thinks, all he can remember is that he can remember laying down in a field and going to sleep. The next thing he remembers is being revived by his rescuers. He had lived in a field covered with snow for 24 days without any water at all. The scientists say all they can figure is somehow he went into some sort of like hibernation state. But it's the longest I've ever heard of one person living without water. But you know, the average person, we can only live without water for about 5 or 6 days. Then our systems break down and we die. How long could you go without food? Till about noon today, right? I think I could make it that long. That's pretty much stretching it. How long could you go without food? In the early 1980s, several members of the Irish Republican Army were captured and imprisoned. And in prison, they went on a hunger strike. One of the prisoners, whose name was Thomas McAwee, went 73 days without food. Water only. 73 days before he died. Never heard of anybody going any longer. Because for the average person, think about this, if you're in good health to start with, and you're able to get water, you could live 8 weeks without food. Anybody want to experiment, see if you can actually do that? 8 weeks no food? You see, the reality is we know that while some people might be able to go a long time without it, as human beings, you can't live without air. You can't live without food. You can't live without water. Sooner or later, if you come disconnected from a source of air or food or water, you will suffer, you will be in agony, and you will die. That's just the way it works with people, physically. Anyway, but we human beings aren't just physical beings, are we? Isn't it amazing how most people in the world, it doesn't matter what your religion, whether you even think there's a God or what kind of God it is irrelevant. Most people in our world believe that human beings are more than just physical bodies. We are psychological beings, we're emotional beings, we're relational beings, we're spiritual beings. We believe that we have a material part and we have an immaterial part. Or, like the Bible says, we're body and soul. We're physical and spiritual. And I just wonder, could it be that there are certain things our soul needs to live just as surely as our bodies need air and food and water to live? And I just wonder, is it possible that many, many human beings have become disconnected from the things their soul needs to live? And as a result, they're dying. They're suffering. And it could soon be all over. Could it be that the death throes of our souls is really the root reason behind the problems that we see in our lives, our homes, our culture, our world, our nations? Is it at all possible that it's really the dying of the soul because it's disconnected from what it needs to really live is responsible for the shame that we feel? The idea of feeling guilty for the things that we've done or the good things left undone. Feeling woefully inadequate as human beings to be the kind of people we need to be, to do the kind of things we need to do. The guilt that seems to reside deep inside of us that we can't erase, no matter what we tell ourselves or what we do. Is it possible that it's actually the death of our soul that gives rise to fear? And that's why we fear the future. It's why we fear problems. It's why we fear when it comes to money, and we fear when it comes to family. It's why we fear when it comes to our country and our future. We're afraid of so many things. We're afraid of being exposed. We're afraid of being found out. We just are afraid. Could it be that it's actually the death of our soul that leads to animosity? Why is it that we have such an incredible capacity to hate? And it's one thing to hate things. It's one thing to hate sports teams. We hate people. Why is it that there are certain people within our relational world that we just cannot stand? They just irritate us. We don't really mind when bad things happen to them. We don't like them. Why is it that hate fills our hearts when we would all say, hate is probably not a good thing? And could it be that the death of our souls is why we are so desperate? Why it is that out of some sense of desperation, we do really illogical things. We do really unwise things, all in an effort to either find life or to become someone in the world or make a statement that we are somebody or just to feel good for a little while. We can become so desperate. I'm just asking the question, is it possible? Is it conceivable that the reason as human beings we have shame and fear and animosity and we feel a sense of desperation is because our souls are dying? Because we somehow become disconnected from what gives our souls life. Just like air and food and water gives our body life. Would it surprise you to know that this is exactly what the Bible teaches? Would it surprise you to know that this is exactly what Jesus confirmed? Our souls need things to live. And if we become disconnected from them, we begin to go through death throes. We begin to suffer in agony. And the suffering of the soul is shame and fear and animosity and desperation. And eventually we are simply going to die completely. Unless somehow we can get reconnected.